been a Christian for 28 years. I did not grow up in church, but I was witnessed to by several people. At the time, I wasn't interested, but the Lord led me to a point where I knew that I needed to accept Him into my heart and give my life to Jesus. Shortly after I accepted the Lord and gave my life over to Him, I met my husband. We were a young couple and had 3 small children. My husband did not make a lot of money. He had a very low-paying job, and I stayed home with the kids. But my husband was raised with very good, sound financial teaching. His dad was a CPA. So although it was earthly teaching, he was very responsible. Right after we got married, the first thing we did was cut up my credit cards and just commit to being completely out of debt. As we searched the Word and learned what God would have for us, we committed to becoming debt-free right from the start. Things were not easy when we did that, and there were times where we even had to rely on assistance to get formula for our children. We couldn't see at the time how this was all going to resolve based on such a low-paying job. But in His faithfulness, the Lord taught us both in Malachi, like Robbie's teaching right now, test me and see that what my word says is true. And so we initiated the tithing right away. And we started off with as little as we have, tithing 10%. God immediately showed Himself faithful in ways that to this day we can't even explain. After that, we committed not only to give our 10% tithe and trust the Lord with that, we also heard the same teaching Robbie's sharing with us now, in that God's kingdom is upside down. So we tithe, then we give, then we save. We've already eliminated our debt, and then we spend. So we began to live by those principles 25 years ago, and the Lord has been faithful to bring us to where we are today. Back when we were young Christians and so filled with the Word, I cried out and said, "But Lord, I want to do things for you. I want to go to an orphanage. I want to work in ministry. I want to take mission trips. I want to do all of these huge things." And I believe those were dreams that God gave me and placed in my heart from the start, because those weren't things that I was seeking after before I knew the Lord. So I questioned the Lord in my 20s. How am I going to do this? I'm home. I have little babies. I don't see my life taking that turn. I don't see how you could provide. How can I leave and go on a mission trip when I have babies at home? And so none of it made sense. But again, with God, nothing ever makes sense, at least to our minds. Slowly, the Lord put opportunities in our path. And He was very clear about, if I've given you little and I can trust you with little, I will then give you much more. So we took comfort in that. And we would step out and take the little opportunity that He gave us. And then we'd see His faithfulness and the fruit, and then He would give us another one and another one. We have been able to take mission trips. Every summer we worked in Costa Rica, Guatemala. We went to an orphanage in Romania where I held my first orphan, and it was that day that everything changed for me and for my calling in my life. I knew from that day on that I could no longer turn my back to the plight of an orphan. Then when we came back, we said, how can we do something that's just as effective but here in the United States and not have it be a part-time ministry? So the Lord gave us an opportunity to be foster parents here in North Carolina. And we had 18 foster children that came in and out of our lives. We've adopted 3 of those children, who are now our youngest 3 children. Then we came across this opportunity to host an orphan. And I thought, host? Well, that's like bringing the mission field here to the United States instead of us going there. And that way our younger children could participate in missions as well. So we hosted our first orphan 3 years ago. We've been hosting orphans ever since. It has been a true fulfillment of a calling for me, but not because it's for me. I've been allowed to see God work miracles right in front of my eyes. And He's allowed me to be part of His miracle. And at first, we were just hosting because it was a great opportunity, it was a nice thing to do. But again, once you meet the orphan and you understand their story and their life, and that all they need is parents, the whole story becomes different. In His infinite wisdom, the Lord also allowed us to adopt another child from Ukraine, Oleksandr, who is now serving at Hope. He came the first time when he was 13 years old. We hosted him. He had never been hosted before. He tells us today that when he came down the escalator and saw a family holding a sign with his picture on it, that it meant more to him than anything else in his entire life. So the simple acts of serving changed his life, but also he received a family, and we've been blessed by another son. We continued to host, and I volunteered to be a coordinator in North Carolina. We did not have orphans coming to this area 3 years ago. So from that, the Lord has grown it. Last Christmas, we had 27 orphans come to Charlotte, which was in itself a complete miracle. And I really sought the Lord before Christmas, and I said, Lord, I need to be in a church where there are people with huge hearts and similar passion. And last fall, I asked a friend, what church in Harrisburg has the most mission-minded philosophy, or what church has the most mission-minded people? Because I need to be amongst people with similar hearts. And my friend told me Hope. So we came to Hope last September, and I was thrilled that my kids would have other kids to be with and have a youth group. It was very important to us. But the longing of my heart was to find fellowship with other like-minded Christians who wanted to serve the Lord and reach out not only internationally, but locally as well. And in a very short time, I have met some of the most wonderful friends, and their hearts are exactly what the Lord showed me that it would be like. For this summer hosting program, we now have 12 children coming to Hope this summer. The Lord has done an incredible thing with the hosting program in this area as well. This summer, we have 47 children coming to Charlotte. It's more than double what we had last Christmas. It's exploding, and the awareness of an orphan and their need for love and family is moving through our church and also through our area. I think what God's done in this area, as I said before, it's nothing short of a miracle. And to be invited into witnessing a miracle like that is far beyond anything I could have dreamt or imagined, even back in my 20s when I wanted all these exciting things from the Lord. But to see it so up close and personal, to see the lives of the kids change right before our eyes, and to see God's hand moving children, moving families, changing hearts, instilling His word in kids who have never even heard of Jesus. To be able to stand there and have this small part is just so life-fulfilling to me. It is an answer to all of my dreams, but I know that God encourages us to dream bigger. So yes, this is going to be an incredible summer. We're seeing God explode things before our eyes, but it's time for all of us to dream bigger and not to be afraid to step out. I do believe, though, had we not been faithful with the little things and implemented the principles that we learned early on financially in our marriage, that it would not be possible, because each time that we say yes to God, the provision follows. Each time we say, there's no way, I don't know where that could possibly come from, God provides. So I firmly believe, and I know my husband, who's our leader, would agree, that implementing God's ways can never fail. And to be walking with the Lord and seeing what He's doing is a blessing that none of us deserve, but yet He's so gracious that He allows us, just an ordinary person, to come alongside and to take His hand and see His work right in front of us.